What our real obsession is, and our real concern, is really based on that theme, is in the age of information, we're dealing with the fact that people don't know how to think, and they can't communicate properly, and we've lost the idea of being able to communicate ideas. And that is really the issue. And so for us, we began to think that maybe the merger, the excitement, kids watching television 7 hours a day, that maybe these personal computers and that television could be fused together to do something really unique and unusual. So we took a paradigm here of an abstract painting, and we began to look at the tools. So I'm going to watch Morgan here in the center as we kind of click through, and the kind of intuitive thing. Gee, what is it? And this is a very basic premise. What is it that I could do in this medium I couldn't do in any other medium? Let's go and take an overview of the painting, and with the assumption you walk up to something, you say, I don't know what it is, but it's okay. I want to see an overview of the painting in 30 seconds.
Spain. Picasso's native land is divided and brutalized by civil war. Guernica, a small town in the north, is wiped out by the rebel Franco's bombs. Deeply moved, Pablo Picasso, then aged 56, immediately paints a monumental canvas to commemorate the massacre and emphasize the horrors of war. For the first time, his art reflected his political awareness, and Picasso used physical distortions of figures to express his private fears and emotions.
Anything that's in the painting you can touch, it's hot. But let's link on the ball. And this brings up another aspect of what we do, which is called submenus. Now it allows you to penetrate and says, hey, maybe you didn't think of this. Bullfighting, or bull art, or the Minotaur, or mythology, or where do you want to go? And our answer is, we don't care. We have another one that takes you into African art. We don't care. No, it's not didactic, it's not tutorial, it's hyperpaths that allow people to explore, get turned on, get excited by information. I'm going to turn the mic over to Alan at this point, where we go from here.
Okay, after we had dealt with the painting, we wanted to, actually through Jim Dazelle of IBM, play with the idea of how we can use interactive multimedia and tools in the reading process. And so what we started to do was to play around with the notion of what we really mean by reading and what kind of tools help us understand what's really going on. And we chose poetry intentionally because of its inherent complexities in terms of a medium of reading. Okay, another type of level of meaning that when we actually read we don't know is we may know, for example, in that first paragraph what every word means, but we don't know the context of the story. We don't know who Ulysses is. We don't know why people don't know him. We don't have the cultural literacy or the backstory, as we say in the film business, to understand what this is about. It has nothing to do with interpretations or symbolism, but it has to do with not knowing what the context might be. So we created a situation, again, because we want people using these tools to understand the mental processes that are going on so they can actually deal with them themselves. We created a tool called context, which we can select the paragraph, and somebody can give us a background.
Ulysses is a pirate. He's a pirate king who has gone off on the greatest adventure anybody has ever gone on in his world. He went off with his whole crew to conquer a city at the ends of the earth, the city of Troy, and won that city back after 10 years of fighting. They managed to break through the walls and take the city. And then it took him another 10 years to get back home again, wandering all over the Mediterranean Sea and having every imaginable kind of adventure.
Another type of meaning that we can get from poetry and literature and theater, for example, is actually different levels of interpretations of the words. And we have a tool called Interpret, which allows us to actually hear the poems being said, for example, see them, deal with certain symbolic relationships, and get different interpretations of what it might be. So I can choose, again, the idea of having 6 or different people with different accents from different parts of the world. We'll choose another one to get a little more of the feel of what this poem's about.
How dull it is to pause, to make an end, to rust unburnished, not to shine in use.
Now, beyond just being able to read the language, let's see what happens when we actually can see it. And one of the things that we can do is actually, I'm going to select these 4 words, "This is my son," And we can go in here and choose characters and actually take, one of the things that we think is really interesting is take the same character, same words, same person saying it with different emotion, and we can see how words and language can be manipulated. So this is my son with disdain, which I'm sure any of us that have sons have felt before.
This is my son.
And again, the other side of that, which hopefully is more often, is
This is my son.
now one of the tools that we're really interested in is this idea of method. And we've talked about one form of knowledge is when you don't know what the symbols are, which is defined, and interpretations is another level, and context. One of the things that we like to do with the idea of method is the kind of knowledge that you understand when you actually know what the poet is doing to you or what the filmmaker is doing to you. In other words, understanding the manipulation. On the one level, you can understand the appreciation for the art form, but on the other level, and a very important level, you can also understand how you're being moved, how you're being manipulated, and so forth. So we had some students actually do this, and the way it works is that you can actually select certain sections of the poem that are marked up, and it'll tell you sort of the poetic tool that is being used here. And some students actually did the sequence.
Onomatopoeia.
Onomata what?
Onomatopoeia.
What's that?
It's words whose sounds suggest the sense.
Fizz.
Flash.
Buzz.
Meow.
Growl.
Thud.
Snap.
Crunch. Screech. Crash.
The last level sort of that we talk about of sort of knowing is we refer to it as the explore tool or the linkages. It's really why are we interested in things like Ulysses in the first place, or Guernica, or E equals MC squared. It has to do with the ideas of the related ideas or the larger ideas that come out of this kind of context. And what we do here is we allow people to actually engage with a type or actually different categories that are under here, like for example to explore poetry or to explore the idea of who Ulysses is. But here we allow them to sort of explore these ideas of different types of poems and experience different types of cultures. For example, haiku here.
Haiku is a form of Japanese poetry that relies chiefly on imagery about nature to convey a distinct emotion which results in an intense insight.
Let's try something completely different here.
Souls are spared. Don't try to read me, you'll be baffled. Before you test me, you best be careful, cause you have no idea where I'm coming from. I be dropping rhymes on drums.
Rap was built on competition, you know, rappers going up against each other. I mean, that's why we did it in the first place, to stop the killing, to stop the fighting against each other. Let's go, you know, battle with lyrics and see who's got a better song, whose lyrics are better, are more tricky.
The last thing I want to show you is a sequence that essentially can deal with the idea of how would we attract potentially children or students to be interested in something like a romantic poem like Tennyson's Ulysses. And so we've done sort of a multimedia, quasi-MTV kind of approach to the idea of how we can attract people to the notions of what these things are, and maybe even suggest a lot of what the ideas are in the poem itself. So let me play that last sequence for you.
It little profits that an idle king by this still hearth among these barren crags, matched with an aged wife, I meet and dole unequal laws unto a savage race that hoard and sleep and feed and know not me.
is not too late to seek a newer world. Push off! And sitting well in order, smite the sounding furrows. All my purpose holds, to sail beyond the sunset and the bars of all the western stars until I die. It may be that the gulfs will wash us down. It may be we shall touch the happy isles and see the great Achilles whom we... That which we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield.
Just before we launched the sequence last Friday, about a week ago, we ran this for a test class of 21 11-year-old kids. I said, quickly, let me find out from the 21 kids here, what's a hero? First boy says, Michael Jordan. Second one, Magic Johnson. Third one, Joe Montana. Fourth one, also a sports star. I go, whoa, yo, hold on a minute. We haven't heard from the girls yet. Girls, Janet Jackson, Paula Abdul. I said, all I'm getting is rock and roll and sports. Why? Answer back, we see them on TV. Very interesting concept. So I said, let's run these last two sequences and see what, maybe there might be more to being a hero than just being a TV sports star and making a lot of money. I said, Jarrett, what do you think? And he said, I guess you have to be a bigger hero to stand in front of a tank than to slam dunk a basketball. That's it.